Good morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2014. President Obama arrived in Tokyo about an hour and a half ago on the first leg of his Asian tour. Meanwhile, also in Asia, down in the southwestern part of Australia along the coastline, investigators are trying to determine whether an unidentified object that washed ashore could in fact be part of the missing Malaysian airliner, Flight 370. The metal item washed ashore near Augusta along the country's southwestern shoreline, according to a news release from Australian authorities. The Australians have contacted the Malaysian officials who are overseeing overall search efforts. Apparently a press conference is scheduled sometime this morning. Probably that's morning Australia time, which means it'll be sometime early this evening. Jetliner, of course, disappeared on March 8th with 239 people on board. Meanwhile, the crisis in the Ukraine deepened further overnight following the departure of Vice President Biden, who left Kiev after a two-day visit. In a late-night phone call last evening, John Kerry, the Secretary of State, told his counterpart, the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, of his deep concern over the lack of positive Russian steps to de-escalate the crisis. Moscow maintains that the accord that was reached in Geneva on April 17th, that has now been ruptured, was caused by Ukraine ultranationalists who simply tried to defend their country, ended up killing two rebels, i.e. Russian troops masquerading as freedom fighters in the eastern town of Sloviansk. Also this morning, Russia's defense ministry announced on state news services that the Navy had launched SNAP military exercises in the Caspian Sea. The drill is going to last 7 days. It's going to involve 10 naval vessels. The Caspian Sea is bordered by Iran, Russia, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Azerbaijan, and the whole region is crisscrossed by oil and gas pipelines, a number of which reach the Ukraine. John Charman was interviewed this morning in an article in the Royal Gazette down in Hamilton, Bermuda, written by our friend Jonathan Kent. And according to the article, Mr. Charman believes that Endurance, his company, and Aspen Insurance Holdings, the company he's trying to buy, are ripe for a merger and extraordinarily complementary. With the help of some investor friends, he continues to plan to buy both companies, which he in fact has already bought one, Endurance, shrink their expense base, and combine them into a global insurance and reinsurance powerhouse. Charman, whose company is working with a $50 billion private equity fund, CVC Capital Partners, is trying to realize the Aspen deal. He's not about to give up. He said, "I want to be clear. Both ourselves and our business partners are resolute in achieving our goal." He said he was staggered by the refusal of Aspen's board to engage in even exploratory discussions on the value that could be realized for their shareholders by the Endurance purchase, and suggested, quote, that some companies appear to be run for the benefit of directors and senior management rather than shareholders. Richard Brindle, the departing founder of Lancashire Re, is going to have earned approximately $200 million from his venture, the company that he formed following Hurricane Katrina in 2005. During his 8-year tenure, the company has won well-deserved plaudits for returning capital to shareholders in the form of dividends. And in fact, about a third of Brindle's $200 million in profits is going to have been attributed to dividend payments. He received about $48 million in salary and bonuses. There was a piracy incident in the Straits of Malacca today, not off Somalia, but in the Straits of Malacca, the busiest shipping area in the world. It sees about 25% of the world's seaborne traffic go through it. Armed pirates raided an oil tanker and took 3 crew members with them. According to the head of the International Maritime Bureau's Piracy Reporting Center, we're very concerned. The ship was hijacked while sailing near the Malaysian town of Port Klang. It's the first time this has happened so far north in the Malacca Strait. It's the first time they kidnapped a crew. It's not an area where we have seen the modus operandi of ships hijacked for their cargo. 8 Indonesian pirates in a fishing vessel boarded the tanker, which is named the Naniwa Maru Number 1, at 1 a.m. local time on Tuesday off the coast of West Malaysia. The pirates then proceeded to pump out about 3 million liters of the 4.5 million liters of diesel oil carried by the tanker into 2 waiting vessels, and then made off with 3 Indonesian crew members. There is now a possibility that the kidnapped crew might have been involved in the hijack because they took their belongings and personal documents with them. The ship has since been towed to Malaysia's Port Klang for further investigation. W.R. Berkley Company said price increases can still be achieved in most lines of business, as it reported first quarter operating profits that were up 31%, driven by improved underwriting margins in virtually every area. The specialty insurer reported profits of $135 million, or $1 a share, up from $103 million last year, and well ahead of estimates by analysts of 79 cents a share. They saw their underwriting ratio drop down to 93.9% from 94.7%. It was a very good quarter for them. Commenting on the group's performance, Bill Berkley, the founder, said, "Underwriting results showed substantial improvement as almost every area of the domestic business produced improved margins. We expect these improvements to be maintained over the balance of the year." The crash last month of that Indian Air Force 4-engine C-130 has been now attributed to inadvertently flying in wake turbulence of a C-130 just ahead of it. The planes were apparently conducting parachute practices. 5 people were killed on the plane that did crash. They had been flying at 1,000 feet, dipping down to 300 feet, at which point they were simulating parachute drops and then lifting back up to 1,000 feet. The doomed plane apparently got caught in the preceding plane's wake and ended up going down. The Liberty Mutual syndicates at Lloyd's will lead the reinsurance program on one of the largest ever single railroad projects in the world. The project by Qatar Rail has been awarded to a 6-member consortium of local insurers led by Qatar Insurance Company. The broker is Marsh, but about 80% of the risk is going to be retained by these domestic companies. 20% is going to be ceded into Lloyd's through the Liberty Mutual syndicate. It's a very big project. It's the construction of the country's integrated railway network. It includes a 143-mile Doha Metro, which is the largest insurance program on infrastructure in Qatar and one of the largest risk covers related to railways ever placed in the world. That's the news for today. If there's anything that does come out on the missing Malaysian plane, we'll probably come back and update you. But if not, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.